Good evening. I'm going to present my project Creating Profit Margin in a Produce Processing Plant. Our topics. We're first going to express the problem, detail the background of the project, define the project objectives, go through the methodology utilized, go through the steps that we completed in the measure phase, go over our analysis, review our results, and include our conclusions for the project. Our background, our processing plant consists of receiving fruits and vegetables from suppliers as raw material, processing them, including cutting and packaging them, and distributing them to customers. As we can see, we have a high-level workflow here, where we receive the order, we get the order in system, we have to verify the inventory, create the production plan for the day, we actually receive the raw material, process the products, package them, we dispatch them, and the process is completed once it's delivered to the customers. Our problem is that the produce processing plant was operating in a loss during a 6 months period, and investors requested the plant to be closed. The plant's orders and earnings were tracked on a weekly basis, and over the course of 6 months, the plant's earnings were below target, calculated based on the overhead costs and average product costs. As we can see here that the average operating costs were around $5,000 a week, and the gross profit does not reach $4,000. So we have a difference of about $1,200 a week. This through a 6-month period represents about a $30,000 loss in the process. So the project objectives are based on creating a consistent profit over the next 6 months, finding a way to reduce the operational cost of running the processing plant, establishing reporting metrics to provide visibility to investors, and not wait until 6 months pass to view the profitability of the plant, and improve current products' marketability and identify new markets. The methodology used for this project was DMIC. Define the problem, measure, analyze, improve, and control. The project schedule was 10 weeks, and after the 10 weeks, we were in the implementing and controlling phase and defining our final conclusions. The project cost was approximately $1,000 based on overtime hours dedicated by current employees dedicated to these project tasks. So our first part of the measure stage was to define the product yield. The product yield is how much material we have at the end of the process. So we receive the fruits and the vegetables and the raw material, they're cut and processed, there are some parts that are discarded, and then the final product is released. So we're paying for a product, but the part of the product that it actually dispatched and reached the customer, it is a lower percent than what is actually received. So in order to increase the profit margin for a product, the ideal is to have the closest thing to 100. Obviously, processing produce, this is a very impossible metric, but in order to establish what the target is, we began reporting what was the average for each of the products. So as we could see for our fruit products, it varied a lot between the fruits, but on average it was a higher percentage of yield than the vegetables. The vegetables suffered more loss after the processing part. So this measure stage is information that we were going to use later for the analyze to define the costing for the fruits and the vegetables. In the measure stage, we also reviewed the processes from the materials receipt to the distribution. So we defined the suppliers that are identified in the purchasing department. We also had the input, which includes the raw material, but it also includes packaging and the labels and everything included in inventory. Our process includes the planning, the cutting, the packaging, the boxing, and the dispatching. Our output is the product that is packaged and processed, and our customers are our retail customers, which are our supermarket, or our food services, which can be a fast food restaurant that is going to further process these products to make the end result for the client. In addition to our process that we established, we monitored the weekly hours worked by employees, and we measured them on a daily process. After this was measured, then average was taken, and as we can see, the hours per day fluctuated between the days of the week. We're never consistent 8 hours a week as would normally be expected. So after we gathered all the information from our measure stage, we began the analysis. As we can see here, we began to do a product costing analysis of all of the cost factors that are included for both fruits and vegetables. So as we can see, we defined packaging material, raw material, labor, overhead, and distribution as costing factors. Overhead and distribution are the general costs associated with any of the products. Labor is associated with the time required to do the products, and raw and packaging are completely associated to each specific product. So when comparing the cost factors for fruits and vegetables, we can see based on their totals that the fruit costs are more than double our vegetable cost factors on average. This means that for one product that we sell for vegetables, it costs us half the amount as it does for a fruit product. So we can also see that for our fruit cost factors, the raw material, the fruit itself, is what the higher cost is, and for vegetables, the overhead cost was the highest associated. And this is also a significant difference between the two products. We also completed analysis of resource cost. Due to our required flexibility, we would sometimes have employees working only less than the 8 hours required, and sometimes we would have them more. And for our full-time employees, we have to pay overtime 1.5 times including they also receive vacation days and receive benefits. Contracts are paid by the hour, and they receive no vacation or company benefits. So in order for us to evaluate this, we had the cost per employee, which included benefits, and the contractors, what they're paid an hour, and the hours that they would be working a week. This was multiplied by 20 resources a week, and the difference in cost between employees and contractors is about $3,300 on average. So the cost of contractors is 50% less than employees. This is definitely one of the drivers, significant cost factors in the general plant costs. So with all of this information that we gathered in the analysis, the drastic changes that were implemented as a result of the project was to make a change in our resource types from 20 full-time employees to 3 full-time employees, and then the additional resources required would be contracted daily as the product demand changed from day to day. So this means that there would be 3 full-time employees coming in from day to day, and depending on whether there was an increase, we would call an agency and contract a specific amount of personnel per that day. And this would require a daily process from the plant manager, but it would give the plant the benefit of having the flexibility to adjust to the product demand. In addition to this, we fixed production dates to eliminate cleanup between products. What was typically being done is that we had multiple products being done between a day, and between vegetable and fruit products there needed to be a cleaning process which was approximately 30 minutes. So this was fixed by having fruits being produced on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, since their life is less, so they would be fresher once they are distributed. and our vegetable products on Tuesdays and Thursdays because they have a longer shelf life. With this change, we were going to evaluate how the time was impacted with the cleanup time. Also, all new product sales were focused on vegetable products, which have reduced costs, as we saw in our analysis. The results of these changes were significant. There was approximately 3,300 reduction in weekly costs just by making the change of the contract of the employees to contractors. There was also an approximate reduction of $375 in weekly costs just by eliminating the time used for cleaning between product production. The project resulted in an overall margin of $1,700 per week on average. So with this elimination of our excess costs, we were able to create consistent earnings through the next weeks. As you can see on the graph, we have 8 weeks after the project, and with exception of 1 week, we had consistent profit. So for each of these weeks, we added a baseline, and this baseline our consistent cost through a week, and we drew the line so that we can easily identify when our gross profits are greater than our baseline costs. So as we can clearly see, we are having consistent profit throughout the weeks, and it's a significant amount when comparing it. So the conclusion to our project is that the consistent profit was executed and completed after changes were implemented, and they were a direct impact of the project. Also, the fact that the project was being reported on a weekly basis to upper management also had an impact on the decision to continue the plant's operation. This also justified the project cost of $1,000 since now we're seeing a consistent profit week through week. So part of the lessons learned include that using reporting tools consistently to identify underperformance allows us to react immediately and also to provide that visibility to the upper management. And also part of our lessons learned is to implement changes as soon as they are identified in order to maximize the benefits. So our next steps are to continue reporting on production performance and gross profit as part of a continuous improvement strategy. The plant will continue to identify new areas of opportunity and implement them as they continue. So we learned that this project was successful. The plant was allowed to continue its performance and continue its production, and they're looking forward to continue identifying new areas, not only of cutting costs, but of identifying new markets. So that is the conclusion of our project. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.